Hey everybody, welcome to the Player's Take, episode 12. Player's Take is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone. This is my co-host, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up?
We post at 6 a.m. on Tuesdays. If you've checked us out, please leave us a rating, like the podcast, share it.
Something. Can
Do
we get
something.
some kind of feedback?
Get some feedback,
you
man.
guys are
Questions,
listening. It's
enemies.
like 14 of y'all listening.
We know some of you are listening, so we'd appreciate some feedback. We'd love that. So, let's jump right in. Montrell, what you been playing, man? Actually, why am I asking? I know what you've been playing.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry 5.
That's all I've been playing this week. I did put Xenoblade Chronicles X, but as soon as I got popped in Devil May Cry, that's all I've been playing. The replayability on that game is...
I get the impression that you like it.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Like,
yeah? Damn.
I say 10.
That's high praise.
A 9.9 out of 10. Because the only point 10 is the microtransactions. They don't need to be there. And there's like one movie that costs like $3 million.
This is like a kind of a trivial discussion. I think some people have been trying to drum up controversy about the microtransactions. The only thing I'm going to say about it, I haven't played the game. I don't particularly care about this discussion that much. I agree with what you just said. They don't need to be there. I don't know why they put them there. It sounds to me like they just kind of slightly diminish an excellent game for no reason.
Yeah, I feel like they did it. I feel like it was probably pressure from the publisher.
Capcom, to monetize the game somehow.
Yeah, just to monetize the game.
And I doubt anybody's buying these based on what they are. I mean, they're just the orbs, right? That you upgrade skills with.
They're just orbs, and you get more than orbs. If you watch the Angry Joe review, he did an excellent breakdown how many orbs you get per game per mission. Yeah,
there was one thing he mentioned that there's an upgrade every character has that's like 3 million orbs.
Yes, now that is ridiculous because you can buy 1 million orbs
for $20.
So that's $60 for one character because it's 3 million. Yeah. So
but,
that's 9.
Dude, I read in the comments people were saying that there's a way to get orbs really, really quickly. Actually, later in the game,
if you keep playing the highest difficulty, and I'm pretty sure when Bloody Palace comes out, you get a lot of orbs. Yeah. So I mean, if you just do good at the game, and this game in particular, which is why I really like this game, is different from the other Devil May Cries because they really didn't hold your hand. The other ones, either it was too easy or too hard. Yeah. With this one, they found a balance. Like I feel like they actually did some play testing with it. Yeah. So like someone like you are coming into it, even though you play action games, you may not be familiar with it. They'll teach you everything about the game. And
these games are complicated from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Particularly, like, what I was, like, hearing about Dante is he's got, like, 1 million different weapons.
Yeah, he has, like, at least 4 different shotgun or 4 different guns, 4 different weapons, and some of those weapons have different modes to them. Yeah, and he has 4 different styles he can use.
Yeah, with each weapon.
With each weapon.
Wow,
yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean the game looks really, really cool. All the gameplay I've seen of it is like, I think I tweeted at you like, this is what I wish Kingdom Hearts combat was because it looks amazing. Dude.
This game is kind of like the theme is Kingdom Hearts. Dante's the light. Without getting spoilers, like this other person in the game is the darkness, and they got Nero who's like in between it, who's trying to balance everything out. Yeah. But I mean, it's a really cool action game. The story, like people were getting on me, like mentioning me, like, "Oh, how can you like this game?" But I heard in your podcast, like one person did say that. He said he heard
really?
Man. One person said,
"Wait, you need to link me this tweet so I can just be like, hey, thanks for listening, dude."
He was like, he actually like messaged me, like DM'd me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was like, he's like, I understand you love Devil May Cry, but how can you like that with the cheesiness of Devil May Cry, but you didn't like the cheesiness of Kingdom Hearts? And
no,
even
from an outsider's perspective,
this game doesn't take itself seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Right. Dude, I saw a video of like there's like a hat he gets and he does like he starts doing a Michael Jackson dance.
Exactly.
That's not the same kind of cheesiness.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I explained to him. I was like, well, Kingdom Hearts is trying to take itself seriously. Like this game knows that it's corny. It knows the dialogue is corny,
and it's just leaning into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it looks cool. I want to try it. I don't think I'm going to get to it for a while.
I know you're probably about around the summertime. You probably get to it.
I really do want to give this game a shot.
Yeah.
It looks really fun. Like, dude, I just need visceral action combat. Like what this game looks like it has. Like, I just need something that's fucking tight, has tons of options, and is just pure action. There's nothing else to it.
That's why I love it, man.
That's exactly kind of what I'm looking for. I actually, because watching this game, I'm like, man, I wish Kingdom Hearts could just, go in this direction. Like, just shed the fake RPG mechanics that you've been holding on to forever. Like, the way progression works in these games, the old God of Wars, this game, and, Bayonetta, where there's no leveling, right? You're not leveling up. You get, orbs or in God of War was the red orbs or whatever, and you use those to upgrade your abilities, and that's how you get more powerful. Whereas in Kingdom Hearts, it's kind of got the RPG leveling. You get experience from every kill. Honestly, I don't feel like it adds anything to those games, so I just
the RPG element doesn't really add anything. And to be honest, even with Bayonetta, it didn't satisfy me action-wise. I played Bayonetta 1 and 2. I beat them. I didn't platinum them, but I beat the hardest difficulties on those. And they just didn't satisfy me like Devil May Cry did. And when this game came out, I felt that empty action feel was filled with this game. So
I've watched Bayonetta. I actually watched the full walkthrough of Bayonetta 1.
Yeah.
And it just feels like those games, they don't encourage you the same way to diversify your combos.
Yes.
The way it looks like Devil May Cry does.
Yes.
In those games, I haven't played DMC, so I don't really know this for sure. But Bayonetta, I feel like it's harder to get the high rating in those games compared to what I've seen from Devil May Cry 5. The game is not, it's more forgiving on it. It's you don't lose your rating instantaneously just because you got hit once. It's you still have a chance to get that S rank or whatever.
Yeah, it's been plenty of times where I did get a couple S ranks. You get, each battle you have is ranked.
Yeah.
But even if you do mess up on one battle, if all your other battles are really cool, you still have a chance to get an S rank. And that's what I like about the game. They're really lenient on this. I like the Angry Joe review. He did it. He said it perfectly. I don't really like the scores on Bayonetta. I don't like that either. But on this game, it's just something where you hear that savage, sick, smoking, sexy style. When you just hear that, you're just yeah, man, shit feels dope, man.
Yeah. Because Bayonetta doesn't do that. From what I remember, it just gives you a rating at the end of a fight. It doesn't tell you what your rating is in the middle of the fight.
It doesn't.
So you don't know how well you're doing until the end. Obviously, if you don't get hit, you think you're going to get an S rank. But that's my issue with those games is they actually take time into account with your rating, and I don't know if DMC does as well, but. That part of it always irritates me because it's you have to be fucking perfect. You have to constantly be attacking, and then you can never get hit, and it's just
it does have a time factor, but
drives me crazy.
It's pretty lenient.
Yeah,
like I said.
Bayonetta was fucking rough, dude.
Yeah, Bayonetta 1 and 2 was fucking rough. And like you said, I don't feel like with Devil May Cry, and even with Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I feel like I can kind of express myself and diversify my combos. Whereas with Bayonetta, you can do that to a certain extent, but you have to stay within the strings that they give you. It's Devil May Cry, they're here's the tools, go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully a lot of other action games take note and so this is how you make an action game. And I do want my games like Metal Gear Revengeance, that's really tight on, timing and stuff like that. That's what's different from those games. Yeah. And I think Bayonetta was trying to be a mixture of Metal Gear Revengeance.
Yeah, with the witch time.
Yeah, with the witch time and stuff. Even though, I know, don't slay me guys, Bayonetta came out before Metal Gear Revengeance, I know. Yeah. But I feel like that game falls in between both of those. Even with games like Ninja Gaiden, that's made by another team, that's a timing based just super difficult game, and I like those games for each one for what they stand for, but it's Bayonetta is that hybrid that I can't really rock with that much. So
you got any other thoughts? I mean, man, this is your stage. You seem to love this game. I mean,
we're gonna talk about it some more. So
I know, but this is your chance to really. I mean, you're not done with it though, right?
I beat the whole game.
You beat it? Okay.
I'm on the second.
Damn, man,
the second difficulty now.
Man, you're really into this.
Man, yeah, this game's. I told Dennis.
Nah, that's cool, dude. This is cool.
I told. Yeah, this is like the first game this year. I was like
obsessed with.
Yes, and when I played it, I was not disappointed. I was smiling. Like the whole time I was playing this game, my girlfriend was like,
"Finally,
yeah." And I was like, "She was like, you really like this game?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, I fucking love this game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I told Dennison too. Like, I'm like, Dennison, you should buy it. He's like, why would I buy it? I'm like, if you like Kingdom Hearts, you're like this. He's like, they're two completely different games. I'm like, well, they're action games. And I'm like, Dennison, you know what?
His opinion on this gets on my radar. They are action games. Kingdom Hearts is an action game. I don't like. What is so different about this? Yeah, okay. You have a health bar that you level up and it goes up sometimes. Whoopity doo dah. Like, it's still an action game.
It's an action game.
Like the accoutrements around the action are different. Yes. Yeah. But the core, you dodge, you hit a button to attack, and then you fucking have to do that like actively. It's not that different, you know. So that's why like I'm comparing Kingdom Hearts to this game. It's not completely fair because it's trying to do some different things.
Yeah, they both are doing different things.
But the core of it, I want the combat to look fast and like fluid the way DMC does when I see it.
I feel like the way Devil May Cry, the way Kingdom Hearts is, it's kind of in a crutch where it's trying to keep that RPG element.
Yeah.
That's a series that doesn't need to go like RPG. I wouldn't mind that series going full blown, just straight. Even if they outsource the action, they can keep the story with Square Enix, but outsource the action like Platinum Games or something like that. That would be okay.
Well, dude, think of it this way, right? You take the experience points away from killing things, and then you just replace them with more. You know, I mean, the game already drops tons of orbs and shit.
Yeah,
just make one of those your progression system. You know, it's like. And then there you go. You could still give people HP upgrades every so often.
You know how mad people will be. Like, you know how upset people will be.
Look, if you think Kingdom Hearts statistical systems are complicated, you need to get yourself checked because you have 3 stats. You have hit points. You have strength. You have magic. And you have defense. That's it. Like. They could take it all away and the game wouldn't really be that different. Honestly, it really wouldn't be that different. I'm just telling you
what people will say.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're correct. But
that game needs to go full-blown action. Like, I feel like it needs a...
Yeah, because then they can really focus on the shit that matters, like the story and then the encounters.
Yes.
You know? Which I feel like sometimes is secondary, and which it shouldn't be.
I don't know, man. I told Dennison I'll buy the game for him. Like, that's how... That's how bad I want people to play this game.
Oh my god!
I'm glad it's getting so much traction on social media. And
this game has, despite your expectations, gotten quite lauded. People love this game,
and I was hoping people would prove me wrong. They did, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, man. You were real cynical coming up to the reviews coming out, and I think for the most part, besides the microtransaction thing, people fucking love this game.
Yeah.
So.
Which is, I think the microtransactions is a valid point, and hopefully Devil May Cry 6 comes out, they'll take note of that and be like, hey, we don't really need it. Like, it's probably still there for people who are trash at the game. Because I think that's what the orbs there are for people who aren't particularly that good.
Impatient.
Yeah, they're impatient.
Yeah.
And they, have jobs like regular people. So
yeah, that's fair. I think it does take away, because there is a psychological element to it, because when you die, right, you can spend your orbs to revive yourself where you're standing, right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that instantly creates a psychological dilemma for a player. Like, obviously I'm sure you're not thinking, oh, should I spend these orbs? If I spend orbs, like, I might have to spend money to get them back or something like that.
Yeah,
but
I don't really think
I'm sure some players have that problem, though. When they die and they spend their red orbs to revive themselves, or the gold orbs. Can you buy the gold orbs?
No,
I thought it was red only. Right?
I think you can buy only red. I haven't really checked it, but I think it's only red only. I believe.
Yeah, so you spend your red orbs, and you're like, well, then you can't upgrade yourself. I'm sure some players probably maybe felt the need or desire to spend money, and that diminishes the game.
It does diminish the game. I feel like it's in the way that you won't enjoy it though. Like, it's at your discretion. Like, if you keep buying orbs, you're not going to like the game, or you're going to get upset like, oh, this game's too easy because I'm constantly buying orbs. Like, it's kind of like you're making your own difficulty. You're making the game intentionally easy. Yeah. And That's why I think the way they have it set in there, even though it's in there, is the way other games should do it.
Yeah,
like
you
they
said
should,
it's like hidden in a corner.
Yeah, they don't even point to. They don't give you no tutorials. Like, here's the store. Like they don't do none of that. It's just at the bottom of the screen somewhere. So, man, I'm waiting. I'm curious to see when you play it. Let me know when you play it, because that shit's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I
will.
will.
They did a thing that I was talking about too. Like they did with Resident Evil 6, where at certain points in the campaign, like if I'm Nero and someone else is Dante, and we come through a campaign with each other, we may play with each other at that point, and then we go our separate ways.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though how it's done too, right? Like, most of the time they're kind of just in the background, in other sections of the level that you've either already done or you're going to.
Yeah, it was only one time like I played with somebody because we got to the boss at the exact same time, and we fought the boss with each other.
Yeah, it sounds like a weird system, but dude, wouldn't it be cool though if they did like real co-op?
Yeah.
You think it would be like? You think it would work?
Yeah, I think it can work.
Okay.
I think it can. I hope. A lot of people are speculating that.
Dude, I'd love to play one of these games with you or something like that. Yeah. Dude, co-op in single player is such a lost art thing in games. I want it back, man. I want it back. There's something about it.
Hopefully they'll bring it back.
I don't even play Halo. Really, and one of my favorite things though was playing Halo 1 with my brother. Like, it was such a fun experience. Like, it's so fun, you know. And I think a lot of these multiplayer games, these shared world fucking shooters, are kind of our fill-in for that, but they don't fill it the same way.
Yeah,
you know? they just don't. You know,
I'm really looking forward to like a 2-player hack and slash game.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
There's rumors that the Bloody Palace may have that when it gets released, but people don't know yet.
Well, yeah. Let's just jump to that now. I had it in the release section, but they've announced the release date for the first free DLC update. It's going to be the Bloody Palace on April 1st. I don't know what this is. Is this just kind of like a challenge arena kind of thing?
Yeah, they just throw a gauntlet of enemies at you.
Gauntlet? Okay.
Yeah, it's like
fair enough.
Level by level by level, they just keep throwing hordes of enemies at you.
That's cool, though.
And that's kind of honestly, when you play this game, it's kind of honestly what you play it for, just to constantly beat up enemies.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like a Dynasty Warriors-esque game. It feels like...
You actually need skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Yeah, so that's coming on April 1st. There is going to be paid DLC for this game, but there's no word on when that's coming. So.
Yeah, it's probably characters or something. And
it could be more content.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be cool, right? Fair enough. All right. I have been playing. We played a little PUBG, and otherwise, I've just been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Hey, what happened to Anthem?
Let me tell you. Anthem sold. I got a notification that it was delivered to my buyer today. So,
you sold it on Amazon or eBay?
No, I use Mercari.
Okay.
It's like a selling app for like old shit that you have lying around, like all this garbage in here.
Okay.
It's nice and quick. But yeah, I sold it on like Tuesday, and they already have it. So Anthem's gone. We'll get into more of that later too. I don't plan on abandoning Anthem permanently. But by the time I want to get back into that game, I have a feeling it's going to be like $20 or $15.
That's fair enough.
I figured I'd rather get some money out of it now, and because I know I'm not going to play it anytime soon again. So, but yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is getting good now.
How many hours are you to it though?
30. I'm not okay. When I say it's getting good, that doesn't.
It's been good.
That doesn't mean it was bad before.
Yeah.
It's just
explain to the people.
It's just that Monolith Soft's kind of got away. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and X are different. They're not like this, but JRPGs tend to take a little time for things to ramp up, story, mechanics, all that. I'm starting to hit my stride now with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where I've unlocked enough of the game's mechanics where the combat's really starting to feel deep.
Yeah.
I actually have access to 3 blades now. I can equip 3 blades at the same time, which is giving me a lot more options to work with, which is really cool.
Okay.
Because before, up to this point, I've really just been using 1 blade in combat, but I've started kind of switching around between two of them.
Yeah.
And I'm... Now that I have 3, I can do 3. I can switch between 3 of them now, so that's going to really open up my options in combat. So I think that's where the depth comes from, is swapping between things as you need them in battle. You know?
Yeah.
Because the blade I've been using is one that doesn't have an ability to heal. Like Rex's first blade has that anchor shot ability that pulls out health potions from enemies. The second blade I have, which is Perun, which is a lance, does not have an ability like that. But so I've gotten into the habit now of when I'm having trouble in combat, like I'm switching to Pyra, using anchor shot, switching back to Perun to do damage. So I'm kind of getting the feel for all that. It's starting to really come together on that side of things, which is cool. And then the story has actually really picked up now. Like I'm starting to get information on the villains.
Okay.
And I texted you yesterday. There was a boss battle
that you're having issues with, right?
Not issues. It was hard, dude. It was legitimately the first boss battle in the game that I actually legitimately had to run away and go level up.
Really?
I walked up to it under leveled. I was about 3 levels under the boss's level, so I wasn't on par with them. So me losing probably wasn't that big of a deal. But even after doing all my side quests, getting myself up to their level, I came back and that fight was still fucking hard as shit. There were 2 enemies you're fighting, and one of them had a taunt ability, which is actually really cool. He was taunting me, and you cannot target anything else while his taunt is active.
Wow.
And the other, because I was targeting the other guy who was kind of a little bit weaker. He took a little bit more damage, and he was kind of more of a threat, I felt like, from a damage perspective. So I was trying to target him, but yeah, the other one was taunting me, and then they were doing this shackle thing where they were shackling my drivers and blades, and I had to change my build up to put resistance on for that, which was cool. I was like, man, this is actually kind of when you have to do this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
that you really have to change your builds up and examine the way you have your blades set up and stuff. So. It really started to click for me with that battle, because I came back and the battle was still really difficult, but I managed to do it. You only had to get one of them to half health for the story cutscene to come in, and then the battle became stupidly easy after that. But dude, it took me 10 minutes to bring one of them down to half health. That's how hard the fight was. It was
insane. I miss JRPG fights like that.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. It was like a battle of attrition, dude, and there were several moments where they almost wiped me out. I was down to one party member, and I had to revive everybody. And I was like, man, I was really feeling it.
Feeling it.
So I'm getting really into it now. It's just unfortunate considering Division 2 unlocks at midnight tonight.
Yeah.
We are recording a day early, by the way. So yeah, that unlocks tonight. So I am kind of I'm really into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 right now. And I want to play the Division, though, so I'm going to be probably swapping back and forth between both of those.
Honestly, I'm still not done with Devil May Cry.
Yeah. So I'm probably but the thing is, with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, though, I am still nowhere. I feel like there's still 50 hours of game left.
And then you got the DLC
and
that came.
Then there's the DLC on top of it. I'm just fuck, man. Oh my god. So there's the game's starting to get I'm really getting excited to play it now, though.
Speaking of bosses, I had that same experience last night with the final boss, Devil May Cry.
Yeah? Was it tough?
Man. Yeah, I had to fight at least. I had to take a day. It took me maybe 7 times.
A whole session?
I had to take I had to take it down. I was like, okay, I'm going to put it down tonight and come back to it. And then the next day, I actually beat it. But I was
hey, that's cool, though, dude.
Yeah, man.
Dude, that's what you want, man. That's what you want out of games. You want them to push you like that,
Yeah, that was the first game to push me in a while.
Dude, when you beat that, too, you probably felt fuck yes.
Yeah, my roommate, I said that. I was like, fuck yeah. My roommate was like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, man.
Dude, that's how I was with this boss fight. I was like, dude, I got him to half, and I was like, well, the thing was, dude, I had been fighting for 10 minutes, and I'm like, am I supposed to kill these guys? Because I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this? This is insane. But then the cutscene played, and some things happened that made the fight really easy.
Okay.
So it ended up not being that. But when the cutscene happened, I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, okay, I don't actually have to beat them. Oh my God, holy shit. I was like, whoa. But yeah, and the other thing with this game too is the side quests. The way Monolith Soft does side quests in these games is just so fucking good, man.
Yeah, man.
Because in this game, every Titan or continent basically you go to has a development level, And doing side quests and other activities can raise that level, which lowers the prices of products, opens new products that sell, that vendors will sell, and will open up new side quests and things like that too. So I love the way they do that because they give you a reason to go back to other areas. And this game too, like, you know the deed thing with vendors? If you buy all their stuff, you can buy their shop deed. It gives you like a passive buff. I love that. That's so cool. You know, it really makes like there's like a real like weird economy with this game.
It makes it feel like it's an actual world.
Man. And like my money is like I'm constantly kind of straddling a certain amount of money. And
I like the scavenger, like his job, like that. It makes it valuable. That it's not just a mini game that they have. It makes it like an actual valuable thing, part of the game.
There's stuff you can get through that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and
I really like that element of it. So I think the game is really well done, and I'm I got a lot to go, but that excites me. I'm not it doesn't feel like a slog, you know.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to keep going with it. So, okay.
Take notes, Square Enix. Jesus.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you can learn a lot from Marvel stuff. You really can. Moving on to the news. So we got a lot of news this week. The first one is Gearbox teased on Twitter a few times, in fact, this week. The first one they teased was on March 12th. They posted a picture that was a sign that said March 28th, Boston, MA, Exit 3, and it looked like Borderlands.
Yeah.
Then they posted another one on March 13th, which was they said they were teasing another game, guessing a different game than the first one, and it was a picture of a robot taken apart on a workbench of some sort. And then they had a third one on March 14th, which was a blurry picture of Maya from Borderlands 2, and this is supposedly a different game from the first two. So
maybe a standalone Maya game.
I don't know. Maybe that'd be cool. She was my favorite character in Borderlands 2. But so the thing is, when the first one dropped, people were saying, "Okay, this has got to be Borderlands 3, right?" Then the second one drops. We have no idea what this is. Nobody seems to know what this is. Third one drops. I mean, I can clearly see that's Maya in the front. It's blurry, but I know what she looks like. So, I don't know. Some people were saying that maybe it was a remaster of Borderlands 1, but Maya's not in Borderlands 1. So,
what about the one before that? The prequel?
The pre-sequel? She wasn't in that either.
Okay.
And I don't see why they need to remaster those. And even Borderlands 2, they've already done the Handsome Collection for that. So the only game in Borderlands that they haven't released on current consoles is Borderlands 1, the first one.
Yeah.
So a remaster of that would make sense. But given the fact that everybody's waiting for Borderlands 3 and they've been working on it for presumably a while, I feel like that has to be this. But I guess we'll find out. It's on the 28th. It's 2 weeks from today. We'll find out, I'm sure. So in a couple episodes, hopefully we'll have an answer for what they're teasing here. However, what I really wanted to ask you is, if it is Borderlands 3, what are your expectations for that game?
To be a proper looter shooter. To like show...
So you think...
I think it's going to go the looter shooter route.
You think it's going to be a live service game?
Yes.
Because I'm dreading that.
I think that only makes sense.
You think it's inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of these games were inspired by Borderlands. Like that's why
they were,
yeah.
But they don't do anything that Borderlands does. That's the stupid part. It's like Borderlands is so different.
You can play Borderlands solo.
Yeah, Borderlands is completely different from Destiny, Division, Anthem, all these games. Like,
yeah,
it does the RPG side of this way better than those games ever did. You know. So I personally don't want it to be a looter shooter. Like I know that the Borderlands 2 in particular, right? Like that game felt like it was designed to be played with other people.
Yeah.
Even though it was a single player game, but it was heavily encouraged that you played in co-op. It felt that way.
Yeah. That's how I felt when I
playing
played
that game solo is really janky sometimes because you're just everything's shooting at you and it feels like the enemies don't miss. So you have to be like perfect at higher levels with your ability usage and your shooting, and it's like the game's really hard at higher levels. And I always felt like it was kind of a bit of a detriment to the gameplay that the game played that way. Like it just didn't feel super fun by yourself sometimes. Certain characters in particular, but. I don't know. Borderlands 3, I almost want it to be. See, what I wanted out of Borderlands 3, or what I still want, is I kind of want it to lean more towards Mass Effect. You know?
Nah, it's not going that way.
Where you have a squad and it's like really story heavy, and there's like you have like AI.
This is Gearbox talking about.
You have like AI partners and stuff.
This is Gearbox. They're not. I will be so. You know what?
But dude,
I will be so surprised, and I will. Once again, I want them to prove me wrong, but I just think it's going to be a looter shooter. I think you're actually. I think the reason they have Mora here, right? She's going to be an NPC now. You actually can create. You actually can create your own character and your own abilities and stuff like that instead of choosing from a pre character. You know, I think that's what's going to happen. Because I mean, just look. I mean, look at the trend.
You see my face?
Yeah, I see it. And just look at the trend. But
I know they know Gearbox. They chase money too.
Yeah, I actually wanted to be a looter shooter, and the reason why is because I feel like Borderlands wanted to set the precedence for like Destiny and Division and all these other games because they saw like how untapped that was last gen. Like that was an untapped market. Only thing that came out was Borderlands, and that was it.
Yeah.
And no one else filled that void. Then when Destiny came out, everyone. I do remember people saying like, I even said, "Oh, this is like." Borderlands.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. And I feel like if anyone can do a looter shooter, these will be the people who can do it right. Like they made the genre in my opinion, and they can do it right.
I mean, you say that. I just don't.
But I mean, we got Randy Pitchford and Gearbox and 2K. It may be a loot box driven DLC driven like game.
Look, let me explain my thoughts.
Okay.
On why I think they should go the Mass Effect route.
I will love it.
Because think about the end of Borderlands 2, right? We've been on Pandora for 2 games, and then you have the pre-sequel, which takes place on Pandora's fucking moon. And then you have Tales from the Borderlands, which also takes place on Pandora. We've been on the same planet for 4 fucking games, right? Or around the same planet for 4 games. But at the end of Borderlands 2, spoilers for Borderlands 2, it came out 7 years ago, whatever. They unlock the vault, which shows them a map of the galaxy with where a bunch of other vaults are, right? And so that's setting up a galaxy hopping quest of some sort, where you're going from planet to planet to planet to planet, unlocking vaults, defeating the evil monster in the vault, right?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So you already have a group of established characters that have character models and abilities and whatnot. That you have a pre-built crew of characters that you can use as your crew, a la Mass Effect. And then Tales from the Borderlands set up Borderlands as a very competent story-based franchise. Because the story in Tales from the Borderlands and Borderlands 2 is actually pretty good.
I know.
I thought it was
playthroughs of them.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun, dude. I really enjoyed Tales from the Borderlands. Like,
I enjoyed the Borderlands series in general.
The universe is really cool, and there's a lot to mine. And we haven't really even touched the surface of it, in my opinion. Like, Handsome Jack and Hyperion and all that. But there's like tons of other companies, and I'm sure there's planets that are powerful and stuff like that we haven't even seen. You know, so there's a lot for them to do with that. And I'm not saying they need to copy Mass Effect entirely, right? I'm not saying you necessarily need the choice-based stuff. More like an RPG like The Witcher or something like that.
Gotcha.
Where you don't have choices that impact things from game to game, but you have like dialogue trees and it's kind of quest-based and stuff like that. I just feel like that would be an amazing game if they did it properly. Okay. And I think this company can pull it off. When you combine that with the ARPG play style of Borderlands, I mean, you're going to get the Mass Effect that we want, that we never got, you know, where you have an RPG and you have the story side of things, you know?
I wholeheartedly agree with you in your vision. I agree with it. But the only thing that stuck in my mind, which I'm assuming stuck out to 2K's mind, you said when they opened up the vault, they showed all these other maps or other vaults, right? So what stuck out of my mind was, oh man, that's like Destiny. All the other planets, and each vault is just another strike.
hate you so much. You're a terrible person. You're ruining my dreams.
And then you may have some boss that are like raids, and they require something else. Maybe we do see other companies, but we gotta take down those other companies with like four other players. So you had an 8-player raid or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think 2K was like, hey, guy, it probably was one guy in the dev team that was like, yo, I got this vision, yo, let's make it like Mass Effect, where it's like, we got these choices and you ain't got the choices, but it's The Witcher, we got the story, man, we got the art, we got everything set up, and they're like, nah, man, but y'all
the money's in looter shooters.
Yeah, man, that money's, it looks kind of like Destiny from what you're showing me here. We can go to this planet right here, have 4 missions of the strike, and they're like, yeah, but we can take it in a whole nother direction. Listen, guys. Mass Effect, it was terrible. Guys, Mass Effect Andromeda was terrible. They're going to use that, right? Mass Effect Andromeda was terrible.
No, they would have been well into dev by that point that game came out. There's no way they would have made the decision by then. No, the problem is Destiny came out in 2014, and I don't even think they had started the pre-production on this game by that point.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the thing is, you're right. Gearbox, they're a company that chases the money. Like they don't. Borderlands is literally the only thing they've ever made that anybody fucking cares about. Like everything else they make, for the most part, nobody gives a shit about.
Yeah, I can't remember anything else they made.
They did acquire Homeworld and remastered those games, which was kind of cool. But I don't know. There's plenty of instances like Aliens, Colonial Marines of them fucking things up.
My
right?
God. They use that money to make Borderlands though. So
yeah, fair enough. The other thing is Borderlands 2 was a buggy as fuck game. You really think that they can execute competently making a shell world shooter? I don't. I actually think it'll be more like Anthem, where it'll be a broken mess. That's what I think.
Wow, that's the topic of our show.
I don't know, man. You have de-hyped me for this fucking... I'm sorry, man.
You're
right, though. No, you're right. I'm being a hopeful person.
They will release... If it does, right? And let's say, because Borderlands 2, I do remember reports coming out of it being buggy.
The game to this day is buggy.
Yeah, I haven't played it upon launch.
You can break the bosses so hard and shit and exploit them, yeah.
So, dude. I do think they will go the looter shooter route. And there will be issues, but guess what? Gamers accept it. We accept it as gamers, and hey, we could just patch it, later, folks. But whatever, man. I don't know. I have hope.
Gearbox, I hope you did the right thing.
No, they didn't.
Because this franchise has so much potential. It really does. Like it. I have a lot of issues with it. I think it's not as good as everybody thinks it is. However, I see the potential, Yeah. The core, the base of these games is really good. And I just think, like, dude, if you go the looter shooter route, you are abandoning your storytelling, to me. I just don't think they're going to focus on that if they go that route. And I think that's doing a disservice to these games.
Yeah, it was a single player game it was weird though. It was a single player game with like a multiplayer element where you can...
Yeah, it was a co-op game.
Yeah.
Is what it was. But they didn't
focus on the multiplayer?
They didn't force you to play multiplayer. Like, I feel like the game was clearly designed so that you would play multiplayer.
Yeah.
But the game never sits there and tells you should play this in co-op, the way Anthem does. So, I don't know. It's just, there's something really unique about Borderlands, No other game does what this series does, So, I don't know. You've gotten me sad. I'm sad now.
Thanks sorry,
so much,
man.
I'm gonna be sad for the rest of this show.
I'm sorry.
Now we're gonna talk about Anthem again too. Great. It's really, really awesome. The show's off to a great start, guys. All right, next news item. Anthem. Issues have continued. I don't want to get into more of those. Really, the main thing we're going to talk about this week is that, what was it? The community manager, right?
Yeah.
Community manager at BioWare replied on a Reddit thread where somebody was asking, basically, what the hell's going on, BioWare? You guys aren't talking to us anymore. We don't feel like we know what the plan is. He had this really long post. He was very honest in it. He said some things such as, devs stop posting on Reddit because they're tired of getting flamed, and that's fair. They were getting flamed pretty hard whenever they did post stuff. Also, he said he also said though that they kind of are taking time out of their day to work on the game and fix the game to post, and it's like, at this point we should just put our heads down and fix the game, right? The other thing he said is that Anthem is here to stay.
Yeah.
And that is noteworthy. Do I believe him?
No.
No. Is it in his hands?
No.
I'm sure he believes that. I'm sure he thinks that. Him saying that is going to convince some people, but not me.
The thing is, man, they gave up on one of their... This is a new franchise. So,
yeah.
Honestly, they don't have much to lose on. I mean, of course...
6 years of dev time.
6 years of dev time, but... Like, franchise-wise, they don't really have much to lose on because people would be like, okay, that was Anthem. We tried something new, didn't work out. Let's move on to the next project. Devil May Cry. Dragon Age 4.
Yeah.
But they gave up on an established franchise.
Yeah.
Mass Effect. They gave up on that game.
Yeah.
Instead of fixing the bugs, like we
That's
accept.
Really weird in retrospect.
Yes, except I don't know what I'm trying to say. Instead of fixing the bugs, they did fix the bugs in the game. It was a huge patch that came out that made the facial animations run a little bit better and everything of that nature.
Yep.
We understand you can't really fix the writing of the game, but what you could have done was fix the writing in DLC. Like,
yeah, they had planned DLC.
They had planned DLC, and that actually could have fixed it. Because I played games where the writing in the base game was bad, but then the DLC comes out, and I'm like, oh, I see the potential in this franchise.
Graces, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I see the potential in this franchise, and like then the next game comes out, and the writing's actually phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they could have did this with Mass Effect, but they gave up on it. They said, "Fuck it, we're done with it."
Yeah.
And I feel like the game industry is the only industry, in my opinion, that are quote unquote snowflakes. You cannot criticize these people.
Yeah.
If you criticize them, people are like, "Oh man, developers are working."
Yeah, there are plenty of people who put developers on a pedestal. That they're untouchable. It's art. You can't criticize their art.
And I understand you get flamed online.
Yeah.
Normal people get flamed online. We still go back online.
Yeah.
Like, you can easily, if you see a comment that you don't like, block it and move on. I get that shit all the time on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I get stupid people that say dumb things to me.
I just ignore them.
Whatever. So, the community, I respected what the community manager said. I just didn't like, one part that really turned me off, sometimes, and I have a bad habit of doing this, and I need to get better as a human being doing that. When I see one thing that, like, messes with me, that kind of tarnishes the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, he said some good things, but being sensitive about some post on Reddit, bro, like, get over yourselves. There are a lot of constructive feedback that I saw because I've been on the forums and I've been seeing.
I've been in the Reddit,
and people have been, in my opinion,
I don't think they're that bad.
Yeah,
but...
they have not been ravenous as much as they have been on.
I mean, I haven't read every comment though.
That's because they're blocked by the time you get to them.
That's true. Moderators are out of control on some of these Reddits.
Yeah, and even the downvote system, right? You can't see it.
That's true too. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna flip the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
Because I understand where they're coming from, right? They've made a game that everybody hates, and they've been working on it for a long time, and they're trying to fix it, and they're telling people what they're planning on doing, and that's not good enough for anybody. I think a lot of people are being quick to jump down their throats that the timeline is months and not weeks for fixes for certain things like the loot system and things like that. And what you gotta remember though, they're trying to make new content. They're trying to fix bugs. They're trying to redesign a game. That is a huge undertaking without breaking it. I mean, they've failed at that somewhat a few times with some of the things. But I'm sure these guys are working 60 hours plus a week, all of them. Everybody at BioWare right now is probably working overtime to a severe degree to get this game working again and get it on the right track.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I'm sure there are plenty of people who have been assholes to these developers and have said really shitty things.
I feel like it's just a minority, though.
I know, but to those people, stop. You're not helping the situation. Like, you're not... You yelling at them isn't going to make them fix the game faster. Yeah, sure, you're venting at them, but, dude, just keep it to yourself. Like, we don't need that negativity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And I think the approach that many of us need to take is that those of us who like Anthem, like you and me, and many of the people on this Reddit, We need to just go away for a few months. That's what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go away for 5-6 months, come back and see what they got. Because I think in 5 months, 6 months, this game is gonna look vastly different if they're allowed to work on it that long.
Yes,
this game is gonna look vastly different. I think it's gonna have a lot more content, and I think a lot of the things that we're complaining about now will be gone, and Anthem will be on a path to becoming a great game.
I agree with you. I 50% agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the hope that maybe, and this is only if they stick to their guns.
Yeah.
EA lets them do what they need to do, because we still don't know who's the person who pulled the plug on Mass Effect. That's the only thing that's sticking in my head. If they didn't do what they did with Mass Effect, I would be 100% with you, because they could have pulled the Division, right? Remember the Division came out? Yeah. People were like, they got through the content.
Well, that's what this game is looking like.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then it came back, and people were like, yo, the Division is dope. You got to get back into it. And I'm hoping we can do that. But the thing about Ubisoft and EA is, Ubisoft has proven with Rainbow Siege, Division. Okay, we're gonna come back even with For Honor.
Yep,
they came
They're
back
stuck with that game through it all.
Exactly,
weirdly, yeah.
They stick with their games, whereas EA is quick to close the studio if they don't sell 1 million copies by 1 week.
I don't want to just lay Andromeda's not cancellation, but the closure of Montreal. I don't necessarily want to lay that fully on EA's feet, because we've both seen plenty of videos and read some articles that game had a very hard development, and there was some internal strife in BioWare between Montreal and Edmonton, which is the main BioWare studio. I think it's very plausible that Edmonton made an executive decision
to close that out,
and they wanted to save face. Mass Effect is their probably their biggest IP, and they probably were like, we just need to cut this off before we fuck it up more, and just call it a day, you know?
Yeah, put it in the vault for a while.
I could see that being reality. So I'm sure EA was involved, but I don't know if they don't kill Anthem. Like, if Anthem is not killed, I think what I just said is more likely.
And I want that to happen. Yeah. I'm just being realistic, just based off examples and intangible evidence that I have. Whether it was BioWare, I'm not blaming EA, but whether it was BioWare, EA who made that executive decision to can Mass Effect, where I still think it was fixable through DLC.
Yeah.
I don't know. And for him saying we're going to stick through it, that must have been on the team's mind as well. Like, hey, maybe people were thinking we're going to cancel it like we did.
I mean, they've seen a lot of speculation, though, I'm sure. Because, the internet's been running rampant. BioWare is going to close. Anthem's not going to get shut down.
We already know BioWare's not going to close.
Yeah, I think I'm well beyond the point where I think BioWare's going to close. Yeah. I was feeling differently before Anthem came up, but I just started thinking about it, and it doesn't make sense for EA to do it.
Yeah, to me, that's one of their biggest studios.
It's their best studio.
Yeah,
straight up.
Next to DICE. Yeah. They make the most money from them.
It's also a prestige studio for EA. Yeah. Right? They have their money makers in Madden and FIFA and Battlefield. And BioWare might not make the money that those games make, but they give EA something that those other studios don't. Yeah. You know? They give legitimate credit with gamers, you know? Because this company makes games that those of us who don't play those microtransaction-ridden games, we play BioWare's games. You know? We love BioWare's games. So, and BioWare has a legacy that none of those other, Madden and FIFA have been around a long time, but it's not on the same level of BioWare stuff. So, I'm not fearful they're going to close. I think they're okay. I think Anthem's future is what I think is in doubt. So, we'll see over the coming months. It depends.
I'll be extremely positive and say, you know what, I think maybe you are right.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it down. I'm not going to sell it or anything, but I am going to put it down, and I'll just come back to it.
Yeah.
I'll come back to it in a couple months after they release their axed or whatever and see how better it is.
Yeah.
I think this feedback that they are getting, this criticism they are getting, is a nice self-reflection, kind of like what Capcom went through.
Yeah.
They had to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, okay, we need to change shit.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Okay, I'm sure we're gonna get into this a little bit more actually too, with topic of the show.
Yeah.
So let's move on. So this was a funny story. I think you saw this one, right?
Yeah, somebody tweeted it.
And dude, this. So a couple of days ago, 2K or Take-Two Interactive rather, the company that owns the parent company of Rockstar and 2K Games, they had a bit of a spike in their stock for about a day, like 5%, 6%, a little bit more than normal.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a blurb in there that was written that said that Sony, that attributed this to rumors that Sony is going to purchase Take-Two Interactive. And then there was a whole bunch of back and forth where the person who wrote that blurb said that they didn't have anything credible, and it's just something they heard. And then today, I think Sony came out and was like, "There's no truth to these reports," and I could have told you that, because in one of the articles I was reading it was from like a financial news site.
Yeah.
They were like, we're not even sure Sony has the assets available to purchase Take-Two Interactive. Like, and I was sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, dude, Take-Two is huge. Like, they are absolutely massive.
When people said that, someone said that, it was like, man, if Sony buys, Take-Two, it's over for you Xbox people. And I'm
this
like,
will never happen. Take-Two would never, ever do this.
I tweeted him directly. I'm like, man, you must got stock in Sony. Like, you must have stock in Sony to have so much faith.
My God, dude, yeah. No, the thing is, this is like buying Minecraft. I feel like if Sony actually did this, I don't think Rockstar's games would be exclusive to PlayStation.
They wouldn't.
They would be crazy to do that.
Because Minecraft isn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Microsoft bought Minecraft. They didn't take it off Sony's platforms. They didn't take it off Nintendo. They're still making those games for those platforms, because it's dumb to take them off those platforms. The amount of money you're taking off the table just to sell Xboxes is like...
Everybody thought that was going to happen.
It's not worth
and Microsoft
it.
was like, nah.
I knew it. Dude, at the time, I couldn't believe people thought that was going to happen. I was like, you guys are insane. Like, the amount of money Minecraft makes is just astronomical. And it's the same with Rockstar.
Because gamers think in this console war thing, and I'm trying to tell gamers that console war stuff is only with y'all. Like,
yeah. Like, even these companies don't really care that much. Sony probably more than the others. But, dude, I don't even think Sony would make their games exclusive, though. It just wouldn't make sense.
That wouldn't make sense.
And I think acquiring them wouldn't make sense for them.
I think at this point right now, I'm willing to say that Take-Two is worth more, than Sony.
I don't think they're worth more than Sony, but...
Because Sony is on
the amount of money though is
I don't know. Maybe they have military contracts and stuff like that for their technology, but I know as far as every other sector, Sony has been falling as far as that.
They're a smaller company than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that's for sure, absolutely. But this story was really really funny because I saw some buzz about it. And I'm like, man, everybody calm down. This isn't happening. This would be like a colossal move. But then at the same time, I don't think it would change anything because, as I said, I don't think Rockstar's games would suddenly become exclusive.
They may make one exclusive game. For
Sony.
Sony.
They'd make something. Yeah.
But the Grand Theft Auto being exclusively for Sony, that wouldn't happen. They even ported over all the old Grand Theft Autos to Xbox.
Oh my God, yeah.
So
20 million copies of Red Dead Redemption 2 sold, probably 25 million at this point. Like you're gonna split that up.
Yeah, you're gonna take off your PC market. You're gonna take off your Xbox market. Come on, man.
Yeah, no way. Nah. So okay, well, moving on.
Yeah, nailed that in it.
Next story. So this one, so GDC is next week. However, Xbox had kind of had a bit of a mini conference, I guess, or it was something they do called Inside Xbox. I don't know if this is
it's like their version of a
Directs or something.
Yeah, it's
sort of.
It's not as big as a PSX, but it is their.
Oh, so this was like an actual conference.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Well, they showed this thing called xCloud, which is going to be their version of cloud gaming.
Okay, cool.
And it did look... I mean, obviously, they're showing a presentation. Everything worked flawlessly, of course. We'll see how this goes when it's actually in people's hands. The thing is, they said, though, they're going to be doing public testing for this year.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't too far off.
I see that they downplayed the Switch stuff, though.
Well, that's a different story.
Okay.
This one was specifically about the streaming. There was another story that they kind of showed some details and unveiled their plans for Xbox Live on iOS and Android. And yeah, they didn't mention Switch really at all. So I don't know. I mean, obviously we still got GDC next week, so maybe they'll do an unveiling there. But basically what this is going to give you is you're going to have achievements and gamer score. You're going to be able to access clubs and your friend list, and maybe even use some family settings within Xbox. So I don't know how big of a deal this is for iOS and Android. This is a much bigger thing if it actually does come to Nintendo Switch. So I didn't take much out of this, but I think it's something to monitor. The xCloud thing is actually a much cooler thing to me. I think this is kind of a peek into the future for them, what they're planning on doing, because I think they're really becoming a company that is not going to be focused just on their own hardware. They really want to build gaming as a whole. You know?
It seems like they're really pushing up the gaming thing, which is cool. I think they needed that crash in 2013.
Yeah.
I
think they really readjusted their strategy. Yeah.
I think the biggest news to come out inside Xbox, though, was the announcement of Master Chief Collection for PC.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
The internet went fucking ballistic.
With Reach involved, with Halo Reach in there too, right? Yeah.
They're going to start out with Reach for PC and stuff, but I think it's cool. I mean, I kind of missed the Chief, man. You know? Even though I have an Xbox, I miss other people. Yeah, I miss other people like it.
Oh my god.
I miss other people I miss other people liking Master Chief, man. Like, I just remember all the times that people just...
Well, so Master Chief Collection has every Halo game,
yes. Right? Yep.
And with Reach now, it's going to be every game besides 5? Or is it 4 and 5?
Every game besides 5.
Oh, so it has 4 as well.
It has 4 as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, damn, that's a good fucking deal.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to check that out on PC, dude.
Yeah, it has ODST as well.
Yeah, I know. That one, I always wanted to play that game.
That game's really cool. I like that. It's one of the better campaigns.
Yeah, because you're not a chief.
Yeah,
you're not Master Chief, so you're just like a dude.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, that was cool. I'm sure we're gonna get more next week. GDC is next weekend, so I think we'll have some thoughts on news.
I set myself a reminder to watch that.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out of GDC this year. It looks like so. Okay, last story for the week. World of Warcraft Classics content plan has been kind of unveiled. So Blizzard went into details. They're going to be splitting a vanilla World of Warcraft's content into 6 phases. The first phase is going to be what launches in summer of 2019, and that is going to include basically everything that was in the game at launch in 2004, and then the Molten Core raid, the Onyxia raid, and then the Maraudin dungeon suite, basically. Which those 3 things actually were not in vanilla at launch. They were added, I think, a month or 2 after launch. So there was a period of time where people didn't have those. You were basically just gearing up doing, 5-mans and UBRS and LBRS and all that stuff. I think the thing with this makes sense to me. I know the guy we work with was actually kind of disappointed by this because he wants it to be more what it was.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that considering the fact that we all know the content, we know what the game is, we all know how to play the game, people are going to blow through this like that, like in a week.
Yeah.
The 2 months that vanilla had, like, we were all, babies coming out of the womb with World of Warcraft. We didn't understand the game. We didn't understand what the best gearing options were. Like, now everybody knows that information. Like, it's this shit's going to get blown through real quick. So I think these phases are going to be pretty close to each other. I would say within a month or 2, more than likely. So when we do play, man, we're going to have to be on top of this shit.
I can't wait to see the newer players complain about how bad that old shit is. It's gonna be so fucking cool to see people in like Reddit, on the WoW forums,
whining about how long it takes to level. Like, oh my god, I can't teleport to this city.
Yeah,
what the hell? What? I have to walk to the dungeon. What? Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there's not a dungeon queue, but I think there is.
There won't be.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think it would be cool just to see how people would react to it. Like, these are or not basic necessities, but like I call them privileges that each MMO has now. That the dungeon queue finder and everything like that nature. But
take away from the gameplay to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it would actually be cool to experience like this because, like I said, I came in Burning Crusade. I think the dungeon finder was in.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
No.
Okay.
No. That's why. That's why Vanilla and Burning Crusade and Wrath up to a certain point have a special. That's the special time for World of Warcraft. Wrath, I think the dungeon queue was added partway into Wrath of the Lich King.
You know what? You're right. I remember playing, and then once I was playing, I was like level 50 or something like that. And then they introduced it while I was still playing, and I'm like,
really?
This is cool.
Okay. Yeah, and at the time you're like, oh, that's cool, and then you over time realize that it takes away from.
Yeah, I didn't know where a lot of dungeons were at, and then
you don't have to go anywhere.
It was still janky though. I remember I used it, and they would take you outside the dungeon, and you're like, where the fuck am I
at? yeah. So no, I'm looking forward to the purity of vanilla World of Warcraft. I know they're going to change some things, but I think the way Blizzard's approaching this and the way they've talked about it, it really does sound to me like they're going to keep things mostly intact the way they were. So that's encouraging to me, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of whiny babies.
I can't wait, man.
But I can't wait. Yeah, fuck them, dude. Like, this isn't for you.
They're gonna call us old and shit.
Go play current World of Warcraft.
I can already hear people who call us old as fuck.
They're like, what town trees? What do I do with these town points? Oh my god.
I didn't realize, playing some of these older games, and then like for Devil May Cry, for instance, I didn't realize how many younger players take for granted or are used to this stuff where they why do you old gamers like this shit? It's just I don't know. When people were playing Devil May Cry 1, they're like, oh, this is super dated, and I play it, I'm like, hey man, this is still kind of fun to me.
Feels good, man. It fits like a glove, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be. This is one of those games I'm interested to see.
Yeah. I agree. All right, well, we're going to keep monitoring it because Montrell and I are excited, man. We're going to be playing the shit out of that. Okay, a couple of announcements. Sniper Elite 5 was announced to be in development. There's also going to be a remaster of Sniper Elite V2, and then there's going to be a Sniper Elite game for VR devices.
I never was a big Sniper fan.
I've always been interested in the franchise, but it's just it's one of those games that I'm just it just kind of comes and goes, and I never in the place where I'm like, oh, I want to try that game.
Yeah.
Also, Battle Chasers Night War, which is kind of an RPG, like an old school, kind of like the old Final Fantasies turn-based RPG, is going to be coming to mobile devices, iOS and Android this summer. I haven't played this game, but from what I've heard, it's a good game worth your time.
Oh, okay. It looks like it's a premium game. So
yeah, it's going to be $10, and
okay, cool.
That's going to unlock the whole game.
Right.
I don't think there's any microtransactions or anything like that. And then the last announcement, the creators of Left 4 Dead announced a new game called Back 4 Blood, and it is going to be. It sounds like basically a Left 4 Dead game. I don't know the specifics of what the game's going to be.
Yeah, they said no. Back 4 Blood is a brand new original IP. You'll be able to shoot lots of zombies like Left 4 Dead, but there's a whole lot of new stuff in Back 4 Blood which makes it unique.
So I know you have some feelings on this.
So was it the same team or some of the people that made Evolved?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I asked my coworkers, I'm like, hey guys, what was that game that Left 4 Dead made, the team for Left 4 Dead made, but it came out and they hyped it up and it was trash, and everyone's like, oh man, I know what game you're talking about, you can play as a monster, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
that was Evolved,
yeah. And I was like, oh, it's Evolved. So that game was a colossal failure because just all the microtransactions.
Oh my god.
It was
insane.
When we talk about ridiculous microtransactions, like skins and characters.
There were 200 different things you could
it was
buy.
ridiculous. And then the gameplay was actually not fun.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have revised it more. It would have been fun, but I don't know, man.
Well, my thing with these guys is, I mean, how many times are we gonna keep bringing up the fact that they made Left 4 Dead? I mean, that was 15 years ago.
Was it 15 years ago?
Something like that. At least 10, bare minimum 10.
It came out in the 7th gen.
So okay, so that's 2006 to 2013.
It was early though. It was
early.
I thought it was 2006, 2007. Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. So how many times are we going to bring up the fact they made a good game 12 years ago?
I was in high school. I was still in my grandma's basement.
Dude, what have you guys done for me lately? Nothing, apparently. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a guarantee the game's going to be bad, but
what's up with these companies, right? Because this was made. Left 4 Dead is owned by Valve, right?
Yeah.
What's up with them and not having a third game? You got Half-Life 2, like you got Left 4 Dead 2.
What are you talking about, dude? Hey man, Dota came around and
Dota 2.
They got Steam. They don't need to make games.
There's not going to be a Dota 3.
No, there's not going to be a Dota 3. People thought Artifact was going to be Diablo or Dota 3, and then they were like,
"Oh yeah."
Remember they announced that at the International? It was like, it's a card game, and everyone was like, "Oh!" Like it was an audible groan from the audience. It's amazing.
That game's on the burner too.
Yeah, but to these guys, I think it's Turtle Rock is their name, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you make a good game and stop trying to sell games off the back of your work from fucking 15 years ago? You know, let's. It's kind of annoying to me, but whatever. All right, moving on. New games coming out this week. We've got Sekiro Shadows Die Twice on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting this game
I am.
at launch. I'm going to give it a week and see.
Man, I'm not giving it a week. I watched so much stuff on it. Yeah. I already got my opinion on it. It's going to be fucking awesome. They have an hour and a half gameplay on YouTube already. Yeah.
I need to check it out then. Yeah. Okay, is it like pure gameplay?
Yeah, pure gameplay.
Nothing, just like stripped right out of the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you may have some people...
I mean, that's confidence right there,
That's a guy talking over it, but they flew people... Activision flew people out to play this game.
Yeah.
So... it looks so good.
Well,
it's
I'm
so
still gonna wait on it. I don't know if I'm gonna get it right away. But also Unravel 2, which is a cute little co-op platformer.
I might get that game from
never played it, but yeah, you and your girlfriend might.
Yeah, I might get that.
That would be kind of fun for you guys to play. I always kind of wanted to play it, but I didn't have anybody to play it with, so sad for me. And that's pretty much it. Anything else jumping out to you?
No, that's it.
Fair enough. All right. Topic of the show. So, all this Anthem shit that's been going on, all the defenders and everybody saying that this game's great and blah, blah, blah. There's been a lot of talk, and something kind of came up that really clicked with me. It was like, are we at a point where we have accepted lower quality in our games at launch? At this point in time, compared to the way it was like 15, even 10 years ago?
Yeah, I find myself saying, "Oh man, they'll fix it." Like I find myself saying that shit,
and that's an immediate admission that the game's not up to snuff, right?
And that's an admission that I've accepted it.
Yeah.
So when I say have gamers accept, or when we say that, I'm talking about ourselves. Like I don't know about you, but I know I don't. Dude, if a game needs to be fixed over 2-3 months, that game should have been delayed. Yeah, and I totally agree with you, but I'm saying like. Subconsciously, we have accepted it.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, though. I don't. There's no subconscious.
There's no subconscious there.
No, I don't have that subconscious thought. Yeah. I'm like Anthem. That game should have been delayed. It wasn't ready. It wasn't ready for prime time.
Well, you know what? Besides Anthem, the game that really stuck out to me, which is funny, because it's not a fucking multiplayer game. It's a single player game. It was Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
When they announced
100%.
They're going to fix the story. They didn't say, add story. They're going to fix the story.
They didn't say fix. They said they're going to explain certain plot details that were not explained in the main
You're
game.
going to fix the story.
Man, Edison will kill you. He is going to murder you.
That's what I did have the conversation. He looked at me evil.
You're going to come. You're going to come in one day, and he's just going to be standing outside your car, just
with a keyblade.
Yeah, man.
With the actual keyblade, he's going to hit me upside the head with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like.
No, I know where you're coming from, though.
We accepted that. Like when I played Devil May Cry today, that game was polished. It was done.
Complete, yeah.
Complete. I felt it was complete. I completely forgot about Bloody Palace. Like, it felt so complete that that's an actual, even though the original games had it in there at launch,
yeah,
this game felt complete without it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the simple fact that they were getting it for free is even more, whereas, like, Kingdom Hearts, you gotta pay for it. And I'm not really too fond about that.
Well, we talked about Square last week, where they have this tendency now to not finish their story and then sell the rest of the story as DLC. And that they seem to be the only ones who do that too, and it's annoying that people defend that shit.
And that's what I'm saying. And they defended it, and people are defending it, and we accepted their low quality.
The answer to this question is yes.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to. So I was on the Reddit. I was trolling the Reddit for Anthem, and some motherfucker on there was trying to argue with people that Anthem, at its launch, is not any different than MMOs that came out 15 years ago.
That's false as hell.
From the perspective of their bugginess and how broken they are, he's correct.
Okay.
MMOs have never launched well. There's been very, very few examples of them launching smoothly without issues. Even World of Warcraft had tons of problems when it launched.
And they bug tested that for years.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Doing an online game is hard. It's hard to get a game out like that doesn't have problems. But from a content, because he was trying to argue that the content of Anthem was also on par with games that came out 15 years ago.
Okay,
and I literally, I couldn't hold my tongue.
Did you type something back to me?
Oh, fuck yeah. I was like, homie, you're right about the brokenness of the games. That's correct. You're not wrong about that. However, let me educate you, because
give it to him.
Vanilla World of Warcraft had 40 zones in it. 40 zones. And honestly, Anthem's map is the stuff in it and the landmass and the size of it and the things to do.
Probably about as big as Stormwind.
That's being unfair. But I said it was equivalent to 5 or 6 World of Warcraft zones, and I think that's being generous. I'd probably put it more at 4 of like some of the bigger zones, like 4 of the bigger zones.
Okay, I can take that.
Maybe that's a maybe.
I'll say 3, but
yeah. And the game had 40. Obviously, some of them were empty and weren't complete, but honestly, I'd say 35 of them had substantial amount of content in them.
Even if they're incomplete,
yeah,
you had so much content, but
well, you had like 10 or 15 dungeons.
Yeah, before you even got
different races.
You didn't even know that.
You had 2 different factions that had completely different leveling experiences, like had completely different zones they leveled in and things like that. They had different dungeons. Then you had the raids that came out shortly after the game came out. I mean, dude, and then there was PvP on top of it, which Anthem also doesn't have.
Yeah.
And dude, to sit here and tell me that Vanilla WoW and Anthem at release are on par with each other in content, you are out of your mind. Like, you're insane.
And it's not just this one guy. I've seen plenty of examples like that.
Yeah. Well,
in other forms.
Well, World of Warcraft's not the only game, though, that I would use as an example. If we're talking about MMOs, because I went so far as to say, dude, I feel like every single MMO that came out between 2000 and 2010 probably had more content than Anthem at launch.
That's a fair assessment.
Like,
I won't disagree with you on that one.
And I probably would argue, too, that it was substantially more. Not just more. Like, substantially more. Probably twice as much.
Even the Korean MMOs that came out, you know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, I think about Ion. That game had fucking tons of content at launch. Like, there was a ton of shit to do in that game. Are you kidding me? And, I mean, that is an example to me of people accepting lower quality standards. Like, you're defending a game like you're almost making things up to defend Anthem. Like, it's silly.
It's not just like even the gamers, but like the community, not the community, but the media. Like, sometimes I see the media backs some of these games, and I understand, like, you know, there may be trolls somewhere in some places, but they defend it. Like, I remember it was an article about, you know, Destiny and, you know, they're fixing it, guys, and but no one actually writes about. I haven't seen an article, or maybe some YouTubers have touched on it, but I just remember a game coming out and being complete. Like, when I had the game, I didn't have to worry about, man, they have to fix this later. Like, that was like an honor. They did fix it later. Even when we had the ability to patch in like the 7th gen, it was still an honor that they fixed it later. Some game breaking bug in like single player or something like that. Whereas now, I feel like we're too reliant on patching. Like,
it's become a crutch. It's really become a crutch for. I mean, dude, when games come out with game day one patches that are larger than their game, you know, that is an indication to me that they're like, man, dude, like, they're not they're just using that system as a crutch. Like, they're doing a lot of work after the game goes gold, which is fine. They should.
Yeah, they should.
But the idea that to me though, that is like a patch being that large. You're not fixing bugs. You're adding content. Yeah, like you're adding like textures and assets and areas potentially even like the game that comes on my disc. If I don't have internet, is not gonna be finished. You know, like that's bad.
And particularly with live service games, I'll even give it a pass. 2014, 2015, it was kind of a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, okay. Is that fair to say? It was a new phenomenon on consoles. MMOs have been around since like 1999.
But you remember, they weren't calling it MMOs. Like Bungie was like, "We're not an MMO."
Whatever. I'm not giving them that. I'm not giving them that.
Not giving them that.
Sorry.
Okay.
They're MMOs. Get over it.
And I feel like
they're light MMOs, but they're MMOs.
Yeah, and I feel like these companies they didn't know how to operate an MMO pretty much. Like they didn't.
No, they don't know what goes into it.
Yeah.
Like how complicated it really is.
And I feel like I gave them a pass.
Yeah.
But when you have games like Destiny 2, and from what I hear, the Division 2 didn't suffer this feat, but we'll wait a week and see how. Yeah. But you got games like the Division 2 and you got Anthem. These games come out and they had time to learn. Like 2014 was 5 years ago, people.
Yeah.
Like, and let's say for sake that this year's new, you still had 4 years to learn, assess your responsibilities.
That's an entire dev cycle for a game.
Yeah.
4 years. That shouldn't even be as long as it takes for a lot of these games.
Yeah, because they have massive studios. Like, these are massive studios are with very talented people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, and for us to just accept it, like, oh man, like even when we play single player games, sometimes, man, it's just like Shadow of War and stuff like that. When that stuff comes out, and of course we didn't accept it, but the simple fact that they tried to do it,
they think we'll accept it.
They think we accept it. Even with, I go say my game, Devil May Cry has a loot box system, or not loot box system, but a microtransactions in it. When it's a single player game, I don't need that. Like, the only game that really didn't do that was God of War.
Sony's games, tend not to do that.
Yeah. And
well, see, Sony, the way Sony approaches it, and this is why I respect them, is that they don't force these things onto the developers, you know, because they understand that putting microtransactions in your game beyond cosmetics and even if they're cosmetic loot boxes, beyond just straight cosmetics that you can purchase for straight like $1 or whatever, you're diminishing your game by putting anything else into it. Like I said with Devil May Cry, as much as the game is fantastic, feature complete, is a complete game, you putting that in there,
that knocked it down a whole number for some people.
It's diminishing the game, you know? And whether it should or not, maybe that's not fair, but you putting it in the game creates a psychological dilemma that it's on. Like, if you know the microtransactions are in Devil May Cry and you die and you use red orbs, I'm sure
I can just buy some more.
That thought probably crosses some people's minds, and that diminishes your gameplay.
Yeah.
To me, even if they don't ever buy them, the fact that thought is there diminishes your gameplay. And Sony gets that, I think, because they don't push this stuff on any of their developers, and their developers don't do it. And by and large, in the PS4 generation, beyond 2014, 2015, their exclusives have been largely fantastic, you know?
Yeah.
Early on, they had some issues with, like, Knack and fucking The Order, you know, and stuff like that. But those weren't even made by... The Order was a third party that they contracted, and Knack was an internal game. But that was that wasn't made by one of their big studios like Guerrilla or Santa Monica or Naughty Dog. The big guns, they haven't really missed. So... And they give them the time to make the game too. If the game is not ready, you think they're gonna make Naughty Dog release The Last of Us when it's in a bad state and is buggy and doesn't work? Are you kidding me?
Release half the game right now.
No, fuck no. They're not gonna do that to make their fourth quarter results look better. They're not doing that. They don't do that kind of thing. I mean, obviously they're buoyed by hardware sales and software sales, given who they are. But the thing is, like, I think that's my thing with EA and BioWare with Anthem is they're continuing to hurt that studio's reputation with the way they're handling their games. Cutting Andromeda off at the knees and canceling all the DLC and closing the studio, that hurts BioWare's reputation. That hurts Mass Effect's reputation as a brand. And when you don't... and if you had delayed that game another year, people would have been upset. However, if we had gotten a fantastic game out of it, I think it would have just been better for everybody involved, right? We would look at Andromeda way differently than we do.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
So
I mean, and I don't think have gamers accept it. I think developers have accepted lower standards in quality.
Yeah.
And I understand they have the crunch cycle,
deadlines
and stuff like that.
It's harder to make games now than it used to be.
Yeah, and I totally get that, and I'm not going to debate that at all. It's just that at what point do you accept it at the risk of your credibility, your pride as a developer, as an artist? Because let's be honest, like even if you're a programmer, people write codes because they wrote. It's like a work of art for them.
QA testers,
yeah,
dude. I mean, they're getting destroyed right now for Anthem because there's so many bugs in that game.
Yeah,
I mean, they're working, they're doing their job, they're finding bugs. I'm sure they found a lot of the bugs that people are annoyed about. It's just that EA and BioWare decided those bugs were acceptable, and that's not good to me.
And I don't expect these live service games to come out perfectly because, like you said, like you mentioned, 10, 15 years ago, WoW didn't release.
Yeah, that was Blizzard. That was old Blizzard.
That was old Blizzard, and they are known for quality.
Dude, they would not release their game for 2 years to get it right. Like they were nuts.
Yeah, and even but then you got games like Nintendo that come out, and these games are like quality games,
polished to
they're polished,
fine sheen. They have no bugs.
Like Metroid 4, right?
Yeah.
We're not getting that for like another 2 years, but I respect them for that. I'm upset about it, but then I respect it too at the same time. It was like, yeah, what if they did release this game and it was trash? Like,
they don't want to diminish the franchise.
Exactly.
I mean, some people would argue, I guess, Other M and like Freedom Force would probably diminish the franchise. And yeah, you're right, but those aren't. I don't think those aren't like Metroid games in the same sense as Metroid Prime 4 is going to be. Yeah. Metroid Prime 4 is like a numbered Metroid game. It's like a core Metroid game. Other M was kind of like a little side project they were trying.
Yeah.
They were trying something different there. And same with Freedom Force, right?
Yeah.
And Freedom Force, I don't think they ever intended that to be a game for the core Metroid fan.
No, I think they were just putting it out there just to put it out there. Yeah.
I don't even know what that game was. Who knows, dude?
It was like a party game. But,
yeah, that's kind of, it was like a co-op game.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I don't know, and you can debate, they released Star Fox Zero, and they were trying something new with that.
It's not necessary. Okay, but that's a different problem. That's not them. Like Star Fox Zero is a game that runs well and is fully complete.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
It's just a bad game.
Yeah,
that's a different problem.
That's a different problem.
That's not what we're talking about here. Like bad games are going to come out. You're going to make a bad game. That's you can't avoid that. It's like I'm not going to bag at a studio necessarily for making a bad game. As much as I am for a game that's broken and incomplete.
Yeah,
if you make a bad game, I understand that can happen. You design things in a certain way. You're working within a bubble. You're not necessarily getting feedback from players.
Yeah, exactly.
For that, so you're going to make some mistakes. You might assume things about your players that ends up not being true, and then you design your game based on that, and you make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a design choice, not an actual quality of the game.
But the game plays and is playable.
Yes.
Right? A game that is broken, crashes your system, and
because what does everyone say about Anthem? It's a good game. It's just content missing.
Content's missing. The game crashes all the time. It's like that to me is way less acceptable than making a bad game.
Exactly.
Like I expect a game to run, particularly on consoles. Like on PC, you're in a different area there because there's such variability on hardware parts that developers have to kind of account for, and that's really difficult. With consoles, you're dealing with one or two iterations of it. It's like everybody's unit is basically the same. It's running on the same OS. It's running on the same drivers and everything like that. So the game on console should be a lot easier to make stable. So the fact that the game's not stable, that on consoles is crazy to me. Dude, the amount that Anthem crashes was out of control when I was playing it, dude. Like, it was wild to me. I've never, ever experienced that on console. Like, I've never seen that from a AAA game. And it was mind-blowing to me that they released the game in that state.
You're right. I haven't really seen a game like that.
I've crashed before, but not as often as Anthem was happening. It was every hour, dude. I was crashing. Like, it's just... Like, I've had crashes... I think I had Borderlands 2 crash, but it was every, like... It happened, like, once every, like, 5 sessions.
Yeah,
I'm
trying to think of a game where my game actually crashed because of the game. And I mean, it happened like every once in a while, but I thought like, oh, I've been playing the game for like 10 hours, so of course my console's like, hey, I gotta take a rest. Like, but I haven't, I don't know. And then not just like with the quality as far as bugs, but like content. Star Fox was a complete game. Played that from front to back. Devil May Cry 2, which is considered the worst game in the Devil May Cry franchise. It's a bad game. But I can play that game complete, front to back, complete, not experience crashes, or I know the content's there. You know, like with Destiny, and you try playing Destiny, vanilla Destiny, that shit's trash. Like you have like what, maybe 3 strikes, and then that's it. Like
there was more than that, but it was more than Anthem, which is pathetic, but it wasn't a lot. It really there was a raid and there was like 5 strikes maybe.
Yeah, but I just don't feel like that's.
But they had PvP too.
Yeah.
So
I just even still I just don't feel like that's a live service game. Companies release these games knowing that people are going to put hundreds of hours into these games.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course you can't put hundreds of hours of content, but you can at least put like 80 or 90 hours in my, because like I can't. People who have completed Destiny and Division, let's say Vanilla Division, Vanilla Destiny, and Anthem in 1 week.
Yeah,
that was like absurd and fucking wow. Like you couldn't do that.
Hell no.
It was ridiculous.
No, now you could probably do that, but that's with knowledge of how to efficiently level. Yeah. Like going into the game blind, fuck no, nobody's getting to 60 in a week unless you literally don't sleep for a week straight. You're not getting to 60 in a week in World of Warcraft.
And that's the point I'm
making.
I
got to 30 in Anthem in a week. Yeah, in a week. It took me about 30 hours, 25 hours.
And
maybe.
That's because we have jobs. Just imagine if we were like college kids or something like that.
Oh, we would have gotten through it in like a weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, totally, dude. 100%.
Yeah, so like that's what I mean by the quality. Like, and I think gamers, and I think this is where our age shows, honestly, as well, because we're talking about games 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, gamers nowadays, they grew up with this type of
this environment,
so they're more to like defending it, because it's like I don't know, it's like a Stockholm syndrome, but like it's something where you grew up with it and you feel like, oh, you're just attacking me because I'm in this generation type deal. And it's like, we're not attacking
attacking you.
Yeah, because it's in this generation, but it is legit the quality of games. And now, almost like how my parents used to always tell me, or my grandparents rather, just tell me, man, cars in your generation, maybe because they say your generation, like I'm personally responsible for it. But like they're like, cars in your generation are trash. Like they're made out of fiberglass and all this.
Yeah, and they're not wrong.
And they're right. Back in their generation, cars are made out of steel. They can run into a fucking building and like it's still dry.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So I think we're kind of in that same context with video games, because video games could last us for a while. Like the same video game will last us for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, like, dude, like Grim Dawn, great example, right? That game's it's an RPG, $25. Commonly, you can get it on sale for like $8, $7, and the base game of Grim Dawn is the amount of content in that game. Just to beat it once through and like get a character to max level probably takes about 50 hours.
That's ridiculous,
I would say. The thing is, they designed a game though that is highly replayable, where you can, because there's I haven't explained Grim Dawn on the podcast. I love this game. There's 6 masteries in the base game, and you pick one at level 10, or not at level 10. I don't remember. You pick one. I think at level 2 you pick one, and then at level 10 you pick a second one.
Okay.
And each mastery has a giant skill tree that I would put. It's they're basically classes in like an MMO, right? Like you have your Nightblade, which is like a dual wielding kind of roguish type. Then you have the Demolitionist, which is like a ranged rifle user. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Soldier, which is kind of your like shield sword bruiser type. Then there's the Shaman, which is like two-handers. They do a lot of like lightning elemental kind of attacks. Then there's the Arcanist, which is kind of like a wizard, and then you have an Occultist, which is kind of like a warlock. Yeah. Each one of those has a skill tree by itself that you can make a character out of. But you get to combine it with one of the other ones, though. So you get two of them. So the amount of combinations, there's like 30-something combinations of mastery combos that you can do in the game. That alone is giving you 30 different characters, right? Yeah. So you can play through the game 30 different times with different characters and it plays completely differently. But then within that, though, these skill trees are so in depth, and there's so much depth to the character customization in Grim Dawn, because not only do you have masteries, but then you have your gear that you have to worry about. Then there's augmenting your gear, and then there's this system called devotions, which is like these constellations, basically, where you pick skills. Yeah. Or you pick like little nodes, and they'll give you like stats, and then if you fill a constellation, it'll give you a skill at the end. And there's like probably 50 to 75 of these.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And you only get 50 points. So you can only fill maybe 6 or 7 of them total. Okay. So you take all of that, and the amount of combinations of characters with devotion builds, with gear builds, it's endless. It doesn't end. The game is endlessly replayable because
$25.
And it's $25, and it was made by a team of less than 10 people in 5 years. I mean, like when I put that up against Anthem.
Hey, you can put that up against Diablo, actually.
I know, yeah.
Diablo 3. Put that up against Diablo 3.
That's a much more apt comparison. You put that up against Diablo 3, where that game has a lot of content in it. It takes a while to get to max level in Diablo 3.
The base Diablo 3?
Yeah, base Diablo 3. I'd probably put it at 20 to 30 hours.
Okay.
There's a lot to be mined after you get to max level as well. That game has a lot of replayability and features. That's given now. When it came out, not so much.
That's because the community had to push back on that, right?
Indeed, yeah. But Diablo 3 is different because there's no skill trees in that game. Every demon hunter you make is exactly the same as every other demon hunter you make. There's no difference in build. Okay. Like, if you want to switch your build up, you can just do it. There's no... Like Grim Dawn lets you respec, but it's very limited. You can really only do it a couple times, so you have to be really thoughtful in how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Diablo, like, the game, there's no skill trees. There's no customization, really, beyond your gear, and the skills are just given to you. They're just the thing. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to put skill points into them. They're just given to you when you get to the requisite level you need excuse me, to unlock the skill. And so there's no replayability from that perspective. If I level a Demon Hunter to max, it's the same as if I make another Demon Hunter and level it to max. They're the same. That was a waste of my time. So there's no replayability there. They added replayability after you hit 60. And that's kind of what they focused on, is that replayability. So there's a lot of shit to do after you hit max level in Diablo 3. That's kind of what they focused on post-launch on adding. But when the game came out, none of that was in there. And that's a Blizzard game made by Blizzard, dude, that they spent... I don't know, 6 years probably, 7 years making.
They probably had like a team of 200. I'm gonna just say
150 to 200 probably. Yeah. And so that's kind of my point. Is you cannot tell me that Diablo 3 is a better game than Grim Dawn. The only thing that Diablo 3 does better than Grim Dawn is the pure gameplay. Like the actual movement and attacking and dodging and weaving of enemies. The pure gameplay of it is excellent. They executed that brilliantly. The rest of the game leaves a lot to be desired from a design standpoint. Grim Dawn is vastly superior from that regard. And it costs half of what that game did.
From what I gathered and what I watched, Grim Dawn plays more like Diablo 2.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so... And I think that's what people kind of wanted in Diablo 3.
I know, yeah, and that's why I recommend Grim Dawn to people all the time when they talk about, ARPGs and Anthem. I've actually recommended it to a few people on the Anthem Reddit because Anthem is kind of an ARPG in the way the loot is.
The way the lore is set up.
Yeah, that too, yeah. So that's my whole point, though, is a team of 10 or less people made a game like Grim Dawn in this day and age. And you want to know why, though? Because they didn't let their scope get out of control. They made a game they knew they could make.
They were focused.
They took an engine they already knew how to use. And the game doesn't look amazing. It may play a little dated, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's fun, They designed a game that plays really well. And they knew what they wanted to make. They didn't add features over time. And if they did add features, they didn't let it impact their timeline, really. So, and they were really communicative with the community, too. It's like, dude, I bought Grim Dawn back in 2014 or 13, and it only had like Act 1 and a half of Act 2 in it at the time. And there's 4 acts in the base game of Grim Dawn. And, dude, I was obsessed with the game, though, up until that point. And then they added more acts over time, and I ended up waiting until it fully released to really get back into it again.
Yeah.
But they were releasing updates every 2 weeks on where they were with development, So I just look at those guys, and I'm just comparing it to some of these giant dev teams, and it's like, man, like if you're lean and you know what you want to do, like I feel like sometimes maybe having 300 people is like a detriment to making a game. Where your scope,
when you have too many hands touching stuff.
Like where those individual teams, what they want to do gets out of control,
let's look at the games that we consider top quality, or I'll say top quality. Mass Effect 2 and 1 and 2, and I'll say even to some degree 3, except for the ending. But like they had 2 years to make those games.
Mass Effect 1, they probably had more.
More, okay.
But 2 and 3, they had 2.5 years, I think.
Yeah, 2.5
for each
years.
one.
Yeah, so you have when your team is focused.
Yeah, you can do it.
You can do it, and I feel like that's the problem. Like even if we had gave this team more time, they weren't focused. Like I just feel like every team leans on that crutch that we can fix it post launch. Yeah. Like people, I feel like they go by the Destiny model, and I always go back to Destiny because this is the only game I've literally seen that people were, even me, and like when I was debating with some of my friends, before they kind of gradually put me down. Before I was just like, dog, Destiny's trash. Like, why are you playing this shit? And they're like, man, you gotta give it time. Bungie's gonna fix it. Blah blah blah. You know what these developers do. Blah blah blah. And I was a cynical one. Like I was just, they're like, Montrell, your quality in games are just ridiculous. And I'm like, well, who gave me this quality in games? The developers themselves.
Yeah.
These are the same developers that gave me Halo 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Halo ODST and Reach. And these are all quality games that were finished.
Yeah.
So when I expected Destiny to be more than what it was, and another thing is going with qualities as well, is we need to stop this. We're going to show you this game at E3 and then show you a completely different game when the game launches.
Yeah.
Show me the game that you have right fucking now.
Yeah.
Like
I want honesty. Yeah, I said that last
I don't
week.
care if it's polygons and boxes and shit.
I agree with you. I
if
totally
the game
agree
looks
with you.
fucking cool, I will wait for that shit.
The problem is they're trying to market it, though. They're trying to sell copies off of those trailers. That's what they do. That's what they're doing.
But
man.
but like Grim Dawn, for example, I'm pretty sure they were like open and honest with the community. Like this is what we have, guys.
No, that is literally what it was. I mean, that was what I was saying, though. The game in early access, they released it in early access basically to keep the funds necessary to keep them open in order to make the game. But I supported them because I bought the game at full price in early access because I was like, dude, this game looks like exactly what I wanted out of Diablo 3, and that is what I got, And when I bought the game and started playing it, it was like, there was only an act and a half in the game, but they were giving us a timeline of when the next stuff, like the next thing was going to come out, you know? They were like, within the next 3 months, we should have the rest of Act 2 ready to go. And then after Act 2 finishes, like they come out with that, they're like, we're working on Act 3 now, and we're going to release it in chunks, like in thirds, We're going to do a third here, a third here, a third there. And that's what they did. And they released them every 2-3 months, But that was the thing. There was no lie there because the game was they were literally releasing the content as they were finishing it, So there was
that's an early access game. That's different from a fully released game.
Yeah, so I was getting to see exactly what the game was going to be as it was coming out. Yeah, they were tweaking some things after the fact based on our feedback. But for the most part, it was largely what the game was going to be at launch.
Whereas these developers, these AAA developers, they keep these games within secret because they have what are they called?
They got a marketing
non-disclosure
plan. Well, yeah, NDAs, but they have a marketing plan, right?
Yeah,
so they want to keep it secret so that they can release their trailer and get everybody hyped and surprise people.
Yeah, and I totally get that. That's business, and I'm not knocking it, but it's to a degree though where I remember, I don't know if it was just me, but when I saw a game like Game Informer or back in the day, or they showed it on like a trailer or something like that, the game was either about to be released next month or it's already out, and I'm like, I need to buy this shit.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I think Anthem and Destiny 1, I kind of want to separate somewhat in this discussion because they're a little bit unique cases, because I think Anthem, we don't know this for sure, but I very seriously believe that game was restarted in development a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I just don't believe that this is 6 years of development culminating in the game we got. And we know for a fact that Destiny was rebooted basically a year before it came out. So those are different. Those are a little bit different than something like The Division or Destiny 2 that comes out and is just not...
Okay, we can say Destiny 2 then.
Well, no, I'm not like trying to take it away from the discussion we're having. That's a problem as well. So the point I kind of want to get to with this is that I think a lot of these developers now, I almost want to say, rein back what you want to do with your game. Like, I think they're becoming too ambitious. They're trying to make too much,
and your quality suffering for it.
Yeah, so they're writing a game down. They're kind of coming up with a concept of a game, and it's way more than they can realistically make in 5 years even. And what ends up happening is they try to make that game, and I think this happened with Destiny, and I think this happened with Anthem, is they tried to make that awesome game that they wanted to make, and then ultimately they were so far in that they couldn't fix it enough in time for launch, so they had to scrap it all and then start over and make something solid enough that is acceptable enough to release,
I don't like that word, acceptable.
Yeah, minimum viable product, whatever you want to call it.
I'm just saying in general. I don't.
No,
in a video game world, just cancel it.
I agree with you. That's the problem, though, is that they had already announced these games, and they don't want to cancel them. The hype was too high for Destiny for them to ever cancel that game.
I understand that. I understand that. Well, maybe cancel was wrong on my part. Delay them.
No. I agree with you though. Like, if you're making a game and you can't make it work and you need to scrap it and make something shitty in its place, I mean, I'd rather you cancel the game. Yeah. I don't want that game. I don't want Anthem. I don't want what Anthem came out as. I don't want that. I want something better. And to me, I think so lower what your ambitions are, I guess. It's like I don't want you to make like something safe, but at the same time understand what you're capable of.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like the Grim Dawn team knew what they were capable of,
and they executed as best they could.
They executed it flawlessly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like that game is fantastic, and they've made 2 expansions since, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. They know
they don't bite off more they can chew.
Yeah, they know their strengths and their
limitations. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, I just feel like maybe, I don't know, because is it the gamer's fault or is it our fault for having our expectations so high?
I think that's part of it. I think that is a significant part of it for sure. We are. I think the thing is with newer tech, newer hardware, we've come a long way in what games are capable of, and I think people's expectations are definitely higher than they were, and they're almost unreasonable. Though, is that the problem is that some games have pulled this off. The Witcher, Zelda, even Mass Effect, even Dragon Age.
Yeah.
In some of these more recent games, God of War, Spider-Man, they're pulling things off that they put our expectations here. Where with some of these companies and some of these games, our expectations should really be here. Okay. So, and that's the other problem. I think a lot of these companies are trying to meet that standard, and they can't do it. Or they can't do it in a reasonable time frame. Yeah,
because I'm just trying to be realistic about it. I'm trying to figure out, like, I usually like to. I like to talk about a problem. I like to have like some kind of viable solution. I just don't see a viable solution because you do have these big companies like BioWare whose legacy is just fucking huge.
Yeah.
And of course they're going through a transitional period right now where they're phasing out older devs and getting younger talent in because that's just life.
That's just the way it works.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you hold that legacy? How do you...
Well, my thing is, maybe you don't. I know we all love BioWare, and I love BioWare, and I don't want BioWare to lose its soul, but maybe they shouldn't be held to that standard though, or held to be accountable to uphold that legacy. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let them make their own games. Don't ask these younger people to make someone else's game, from 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't think that's reasonable. I think these devs at BioWare, now that I've all the videos I've watched about Andromeda and Anthem and everything I've read recently, I'm actually I actually come away more impressed with the young talent at BioWare than I was my impressions before Anthem came out.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I feel like
what they did with Andromeda actually sounds like it was mildly impressive.
It's given 2 years?
Given the turmoil that game seemed to be in. Because it sounds to me I remember playing the first few hours of that game, the combat felt really good.
Oh, it was. It was really good.
And that's not something that's ever been true for Mass Effect. So if you give that, and you give them the time, and you give them the resources, and you actually let them make the game they want to make, I actually think we could get some really good games that are very different from the things we've gotten in the past, and that's actually what I want. I don't necessarily... I love Mass Effect, but if Mass Effect turns into a tighter, more... kind of self-contained experience where it's not 3 games or whatever, that's fine with me, dude. If you make a more Witcher-like game where you're making decisions within one game that affect that game only, where you don't have...
That would be better, yeah.
That might be the better way to do things. I don't think they should be trying to make a 3-game saga where you have all these choices that interweave and affect the next game.
That's kind of how I wanted Andromeda to be. I thought Andromeda was going to be Witcher-esque, where it's just we made this one decision, and that affects my decision for the later worlds, whereas you made a decision, and your playthrough is entirely different from mine, Or not entirely different, but a lot of key things change. But...
Well, and Anthem, too, last point with BioWare, too, is that Anthem and Andromeda, to me, are actually proof positive that this company, they have changed. Their strength now seems to be gameplay, not story, not... world building. Their games seem to be better at doing the gameplay now than they used to be. That was not true 10 years ago for BioWare. So I think they're in a growing pains phase where they're figuring out what kind of game to make with that, I guess, is kind of what I'm...
because you can tell, if you read the lore of Anthem, right, you can tell they still have some talented writers there. Because the shit that they wrote is just ridiculous.
Dude, there's a ton of lore in that game. It's crazy. And it's really cool stuff.
It's actually interesting stuff. I'm very interested in the world of of Anthem.
I can't wait till they flesh it out.
Yeah, it was called Bastion, right?
Bastion.
Bastion, yeah. The world of Bastion seems really cool. The lore, the history of Fort Tarsus, even though I hate the lobby, but just the history of it.
Well, then Freemark and Antium and all these places we don't get to go.
Yeah.
There's something really cool there. When we actually get a chance to expand the world and see those places, I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I can't. That's why I can't. That's why I don't want them to give up on this game.
Me too.
Because
I agree.
I just see something there, especially.
I think there's something with this IP.
Yeah, I see something that can be potentially, whether it's going to flesh out in Anthem 2 or whatever. I just see something there. But I don't want it to come at the quality of the game. If you need 10 fucking years to make Anthem 2. EA, give them 10 years to make Anthem 2.
You shouldn't need 10 years to
you
make
shouldn't,
Anthem 2.
You shouldn't. You're right. But, certain games like StarCraft, I think that took 7-8 years to make. StarCraft 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and arguably wasn't even... It's not better than the original.
That's just writing wise, but gameplay wise, it was there.
I disagree with that too. Actually, I think the game. I think design-wise, Blizzard fucked up with StarCraft 2. They made it too tight of a game.
Okay.
Like, they made too tight of a game. It was too hard to play.
It was too hard to play?
Like, you needed to be way too good at it to play it.
Yeah, they definitely geared it towards the esports.
There was a skill ceiling there that was just insane. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, they definitely geared it towards esports and stuff.
We're getting off topic with that.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like, I don't know who it was, Shigeru Miyamoto, whoever he said that, that, you know, a delayed game is better than a rushed game.
A bad game is bad forever. Delayed game is eventually good. Is
exactly.
What that quote is. Yeah, everybody loves to quote that, and I mean, it's wise words though. It is right. I think so. I mean, ultimately, what I come away with from this discussion is like, I think
we need to be
better as gamers.
We need to be more realistic in our expectations, and we need to reflect that. So where marketing can be more receptive to being more realistic in what they show with the games.
Yeah.
Because if you show me all this flashy shit and I'm like, oh my God.
But that's not the game.
That's not the game I get. But if you show me that and I'm like, even in the forums or the audience or on Twitter or whatever, we need to be more like, okay, cool, but what's the gameplay look like though? Like that's
exactly what I look for. Yeah. I don't care about trailers.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what does the game I'm going to play look like.
That's another point. The game that I'm going to play on release, because they will, as we can see with Anthem, Division, Watch Dogs, they will change the gameplay up,
which is fine, but I think until you have your final build in place, like your final iteration of the gameplay in place,
you need to show that.
You shouldn't show it up until that point.
I think they should show. I think they should show the final build.
No. That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't show the game before you have your final iteration of the gameplay in place. Because when you show it before that, things are going to change, and then people are going to get pissed because things changed. But game development is an iterative process, so that's normal. But that's the problem when you're marketing a game 2 years before it comes out, and then the shit that was in that trailer that you showed ends up not being in the game because you change things along the course of development. Well, that turns into a situation where you're falsely advertising your game. You know, like you're not showing me a realistic representation of the game that I'm going to play.
Yeah, you know, and to its dismay, even though I don't like it, I think Fallout 4 did an amazing job in what you should do to generate hype for a game.
Yep.
We got this game coming out 4 months from now. Here, how's it look? This is the final build of the game, guys. Right
it's
here.
So close to release, they can't change.
They can't change it.
Yeah, they literally can't change anything. So, I mean, for me, I think the other thing is our expectations. I think we need to let these studios, some of them, BioWare was one in particular, that I think we all maybe need to stop holding on to their legacy.
Yeah.
Their old games are their old games. They're still there. If we want to experience that old BioWare charm, we can go play those games. You know? I think this studio, if we stop flaming them to the ground and we let them make the game they want to make, I think we could get something really great out of them, you know? So, and they're going to change. I mean, that's just the nature of games.
That's the nature of like
anything, right?
Like music, your favorite bands change because they have to evolve with times.
Exactly. And maybe it won't be something you like. And that's unfortunate. You know, that's just how it goes, though.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
if BioWare starts making games that aren't for you, well, it's, you know, there's going to be other companies that will fill that gap for you, you know? Right?
But,
like Diablo 3 wasn't the game we wanted, but then Crate came around and Grim Dawn ended up being the game I wanted. I ended up getting the Diablo 3 I wanted from a different company, you know?
Yeah.
So just search around. There's literally thousands of games coming out.
He's not joking about that.
Dude, just do some research, you know? Maybe somebody's making the game you're looking for, you know? Maybe not on the scale of what BioWare can achieve because they might not have the resources, but I'm sure somebody's making that game. I mean, a lot of people are pointing to CD Projekt Red, right? They are kind of the company that has taken up BioWare's mantle of the choice-based RPG
that we want,
gameplay, right? And like Cyberpunk looks to me a lot like Mass Effect and like Knights of the Old Republic. You know, that's what that game kind of looks like to me. And The Witcher was always like that. So, why don't we let BioWare figure out a new way for them to make great games, you know? And then maybe we'll get something new. Maybe we'll get a new genre. Maybe we'll get a new idea we've never seen before.
And I think this is why companies do change their names after a while. Like, I can see why now. I didn't understand it before, but I can see why now. But with that change, I feel like we shouldn't accept the lower standards of quality. If you're going to execute something, execute it.
I agree.
Because we all have jobs and stuff like that, and
I don't have time to waste my time on shit. Like
exactly.
I'm annoyed that I spent 30 hours playing that game.
I feel bad as well because I feel like the quality of our choice, like when we suggest games to people, like kind of went down because we told our friend Jet to get the game. And he was he was on the fence about it.
Okay, that's a unique case though. I wasn't recommending Anthem to anybody but him because he was directly going to play it with us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And we had fun together. I'm not taking that away from the game. Like I had fun playing Anthem. You had fun playing Anthem. He had fun, but he likes it more than we do.
Yeah, he loves it.
So our recommendation actually to him works out, right? Like he got a game that he really liked. You know, it's like, I mean, he's not going to play it now because we're not playing it anymore, but I think he plans on going back to it sooner than we do. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's just the thing is the core of a game, the actual ability for it to run and function needs to be there, and the game needs to have content. Like the thing is, if Anthem was a single player game, I think its content would be fine because it's a single player game. Just the story would be what you play, right?
Exactly.
But the expectations are different for a shared world shooter. You know, it's like you can't just release a story. That's not enough.
Exactly.
Like there needs to be things for people to do after the story's over.
Your free roaming needs to be fleshed out. Like
that was the shit to do.
That was the whole point of your game.
Yeah. So that's the stuff we need to hold people accountable for. And even design, I think sometimes we can hold them accountable for that as well. I think, but we need to be a little bit more lenient and let them spread their wings a little, you know?
Yeah.
I know people, I do this too with certain franchises where we don't want franchises that we love to change, but I don't want developers just to make the same game over and over again, though, because that's boring.
That is boring.
You're not getting anything out of that. Like, God of War is a good example. Dude, they made like 6 of those, or 7 of those fucking games, or 6. I think it was 6. They made 6 of those games, and they were all exactly the fucking same. Yeah. There were different weapons in some of them. Ultimately, you wanted to use the Blades of Chaos in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And then they totally pivoted and made God of War, and it's one of the best games that I've ever played. You know? It's like...
I agree.
So sometimes those things are going to change. It's disappointing maybe for people that wanted that old school arcadey combat, but the game still has good combat, and now it has a really good story to go with it, you know, whereas before it didn't. So I don't know. I think we should let these developers spread their wings sometimes, you know, and stop shackling them to expectations of the past, you know.
And at the same time, with that, I feel like the developers need to understand, even though you're doing something new, doesn't give you the excuse to release lower quality games.
Yeah,
you may be trying something new.
Don't hide behind that.
Yeah, like you can. I'm willing. I will let you create a fucking super Sonic fighting game, whatever the fuck you want to do with Sonic. But if it's gonna be a low quality Sonic fighting game, then I'm gonna hold that to you. I'm like, you tried something new, it sucked. Go back, or you know, whatever the case. But just if you're gonna do something, execute it with quality.
Yeah.
Like approach it like you approach everything else. Yeah. It just needs to be done with it needs to be brushed over with a fine-tooth comb. Know your scope, know your time that you have.
Yeah. Well, know what you have available to you, your resources, right, as well, and what your people can achieve.
And, you know? Even with that, keep focused.
Yes.
Like,
don't let scope creep happen.
Exactly.
Like that, I think that is one of the biggest things that hurts games is probably scope creep, where they keep coming up with ideas that they want to add into the game, or their initial scope for the game is so large that it's impossible for them to make that game.
Yeah,
you know, and then they have to cut things down, and they end up making a worse game because they're missing core features that would have made the game fun.
Yeah,
you know? So
because I mean, just to hear you explain Grim Dawn with 10 people that made that game. And you get 50 hours of content, all this extra stuff you can do and everything like that.
Yep.
They were focused. I'm pretty sure that team was like on some kind of crunch, but but
I'm sure they were.
Yeah, but they were focused.
But they're passionate though.
Yeah,
right? They love that game and they really wanted it to succeed, and it shows. It shows.
And I'm pretty sure these developers really wanted Anthem to succeed, but I don't know if it's EA or if it's BioWare, but someone has to like, make these people focused, and because artsy people do get like that's a field where I think artsy people need to learn how to focus is game development, because you can't just be like, I'm going to
that's
do
why
this.
You have producers, right?
Yeah.
Is they're the people that are supposed to keep everybody on task.
Yeah.
Right. But it can't be all on them though. Like they can't just sit over everybody's shoulder all the time.
Oh yeah, I totally. I'm not saying be a taskmaster.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Of course.
I'm just saying. Like,
no. I understand what you're saying though. Like, don't. That's what I'm saying about the scope creep. Don't let your don't run like so far away from where you need to be that it takes you forever to get back. It's like you don't make something. Like, don't overdo something that doesn't need to be overdone.
Yeah, and then for the gamers, I feel like we need to, one, hold the companies responsible for what they're doing. Like, you need to stop making excuses for just because it is your favorite company. BioWare is one of my favorite companies.
Me too.
And they fucked up. I had to call them out on it. They fucked up. And
well, dude, because if I tell them that they made a great game in Anthem, what expectation are you setting for them in the future?
Exactly.
Like they're gonna think it's acceptable to release something that crashes all the time.
Yeah, if you tell me like, oh man, you got it's art, you gotta let the developers do what they need to do. Like that's not acceptable. I'm still a paying customer. I'm still a consumer, and your product sucks. Fix it. Like if I'm willing to me, if someone's telling me that my product sucks, hey, you need to fix it, that's telling me off the bat like, oh, they actually kind of like the product. They see potential in this product, so maybe I do need to fix it, and I don't need to take a shame or take a offense to it. Now to that dismay, we also need to stop flaming people. Like we need to be way more mature than what we,
let's all be adults, people.
Yeah,
please.
and I admit we have been a lot more mature over the last 2 years.
I actually think Anthem is an example where I think the community's actually been pretty good with this
and
game.
they've been
I would actually go with the media more of how mean they were being to Anthem rather than the players. Like, I think the players have been relatively tame by comparison.
In my opinion, I think it's exactly what you said. The media has the ones been like on the firestorm.
Like they want this game to like flame for some reason. I don't get it.
And it's weird, all sorts of media, not just like YouTube community, like everybody.
Yeah, no, even like gaming outlets.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It's
as fuck,
weird.
Dude. Like I don't, dude. Like I was seeing like Kotaku, like
I think
like they're like tweeting out just like, man, this game's a disaster. Like, it's weird.
And I think it's because they get clicks off of it, so that could be it. But I feel like the gamers have been tame, especially with over the last couple of years. The trolling has went down a lot.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to like us being called out on it by the games media and by other medias. Like, hey, we have this reputation of being, basement dwelling babies, and a lot of people have changed that. I mean, we are obvious examples of people who have full-fledged lives and stuff like that, but we love games. And we can voice our opinions, and they have realized that a lot of gamers are in like, they have prominent jobs. Some people are like,
a lot of people have families, dude. Like,
well, like not even that. I mean that too, but like these gamers are not just basement dwelling fast food workers or something like that. We have huge job responsibilities. Some people are VIPs and fucking CEOs of companies, and they're like, yo, I'm playing your game, I love it, but this needs to improve. And when you have people like that who are giving constructive feedback to your game, or even playing your game, I feel like that's why a lot of people need to take it more seriously in that aspect. Mm-hmm. And also on the other side of that, it's like three sides to this coin.
That's true. It's always true.
Yeah, man. Like just because, like I said, Anthem, like you said, Anthem is a perfect example of this. Yeah, you may have a vocal minority of trolls, right? Yeah, but the amount of positivity I see come from this community is ridiculous. Like, people love this game. They're like, hey man, just fix it. This is what needs to be fixed. Can you do this? Don't take that like, because 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10, that 1 out of 10 person is like, oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to hide in my shell now. I'm not listening to anybody. Well, that was one person compared to 9 other people telling you, hey, we love the game. It's a constructive feedback. Yeah. And one person saying, oh, it sucks, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think people tend to focus on that one person who says it sucks, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think we definitely hone in on the negativity. I will say, like, watching the Anthem Reddit over the past couple weeks, I do think that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I think we all need to just take a step back and leave the game for a bit, because I think that Reddit has started to skew negative in a kind of bad way, and I think it would be good for everybody to just take a step back, let BioWare do their work, make the game better, and come back in a few months, and hopefully the game will be where you want it to be.
Now, him saying that is not co-signing other developers to be like, oh, yeah, we can just do that with our game.
I'm talking about the situation specifically. The genie's already out of the bottle with this. Yeah. They can't put it back in. They can't unrelease the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that Anthem should have been released in the state it was in. It should not have.
Yeah.
But since we're here now, we have to approach things as they are now going forward, right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of my feelings on it. I mean, to answer the original question, I think we've kind of bobbed and weaved around multiple different facets of this. Have we accepted lower quality standards? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted question, but in retrospect, over the last 10 years, I think we have accepted it.
Yeah.
But I think that's slowly changing because we're seeing the effects of us just blindly accepting what people give us.
I'm excited because I actually think gamers as a community have learned a lot.
We actually grown and matured a lot.
I do agree with you. I actually think that's true. And I think developers have also learned a lot. And I think publishers even have learned a lot. And I really feel like next gen, PS5 and whatever the next Xbox is, I think we could be in for a real serious, like maybe best of all time generation if all this shit coalesces in the right way.
Yeah.
And things start getting approached properly.
Because I feel like next generation people are going to be less willing to throw cash at the screen.
That, and I think the technology too will be more willing to accommodate some of the scope that some of these developers want to make, like some of the games these people want to make. So, dude, that's just exciting, you know. So I come away positive though. Despite
I do too. Like I feel like everyone in this situation over the last 7 years of gaming, especially particularly in this gen, everyone has learned like.
Yeah.
You know, we need to grow up. We need to accept others' feedback and everything like that. Because it was a lot of I just remember so much finger pointing at the beginning of this generation.
Oh my god! Remember Unity, Assassin's Creed Unity? Fucking oh my god, dude, with the facial shit with that, and then Destiny 1, and I mean Diablo 3 came out in 2012. That was some fiasco.
Yeah,
like
I just remember a lot of but like even those that were like on the developers, I just remember like. Media pointing the finger at gamers like don't attack them, and then the gamers are pointing the finger at the media and developers, and some of them are doing raids and attacking the forums and stuff like that. But I feel like all that now has just like changed because we see that us bitching about games in a negative light will not change things, and developers closing their ears to us won't change anything.
Yeah,
I just feel like the scope of everything is kind of changing.
Yeah, I mean, certain instances it has worked. Battlefront 2 being one, I guess, but I think that's kind of those situations are where the publishers learned, right? Yeah. I don't think EA, as bad as they are going to do that again. You know, I think they understand like where they sit now.
Yeah,
like they can make a lot of money, but like don't ruin a game to do it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. I think that's all the thoughts I have. You got anything else to add?
That's it for me.
Fair enough. All right, so that's going to be it for this episode, guys. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, Montrell is at iTrap for the Hokage. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01. The podcast is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to ask us any questions, you can do so at theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And next week, I think we'll be talking about The Division. Somewhat, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine so. It's going live tonight. I'm looking forward to it. So, that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one, all right? Bye, guys.